Welcome back to the weekly news roundup, and we have the Quicklines for our week here. What is this? This is February 12th, 2026. And having Quicklines, the first one is a city in California has deflocked itself. They told that flock industry, go flock off, right? Okay, so flock cameras shared license plate data without permission. So this is actually Mountain View, California, and they had these flock cameras floating around. They had like 30 of them in the city. And of course, they bought in all of the same propaganda that Louis Rossmann had pointed out, that when their sales guys go to these city councils, they're like, this is totally safe. It's only your data. Only you can access it, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, he's a public relations person, so, you know, he's lying. So then Louis Rossmann interviews a guy and shows him on the website that, hey, on the website, this is great because we can track anybody around the country. Well, what is it? Do you own the data and nobody else can see it? Or can you view everybody from around the country? And that really boils down to the question. So what Mountain View, California police had discovered is that the flock safety cameras, which ran the system, had been sharing city data with hundreds of law enforcement agencies, including federal ones, without permission. Now, that's particularly important because California actually has a state law. Or is it, hold on, let me get to it in the city. It might be a city law. I think it's a state law, but it might be a city law. Well, it's highlighted. We'll get to it in a minute here. So Flock, of course, uses AI to identify the license plate numbers on the road. And of note, it's not just license plate numbers. It IDs the vehicles based on other characteristics of the vehicle as well. Policy Chief Mike Canfield ordered all 30 of the city's Flock cameras disabled on February 3rd. They found two instances of unauthorized sharing came to light. First was a national lookup setting that was toggled on for one camera at the intersection of the city's Charleston and San Antonio roads. Flock allegedly switched it on without telling the city. So this is a soft toggle button that the city turned off, and Flock says, I want that turned on. So like Microsoft, right? I mean, I do not want to send any data to Microsoft. Oh, we'll turn that back on for you. Come on. An update happens. That means we have toggled your switches all back on. All right. This violates a California 2025 statute, SB 34, which bars state and local agencies from sharing license plate reader with out-of-state federal agencies. So a public agency shall not sell, share, or transfer ALPR information except to another public agency and only as permitted within the law, and that is within a state organization. All right, so they cannot go out of the state and they cannot go to federal, according to the California law. So Mountain View Police Department said Flock kept no records from the national lookup period, so nobody can determine what exact information was looked up. So Flock, without logging anything, is actually reporting stuff. You know what's really funny? The last short story I wrote was exactly on this. The guy was running in that last short story, which you can find on Patreon or on Locals. You can find them on over there. The guy was going in and doing the unauthorized lookups for, you know, shady people on the internet and then erasing the logs of him looking it up because he had full system control, because that's how these companies tend to work. Kind of the same thing, right? So a separate statewide lookup feature had also been active on 29 of the 30 cameras since the initial installation, running for 17 straight months until Mountain View found and disabled them on January 5th. So they had a statewide lookup, so anybody in the state of California could look up anything on 29 of the 30 cameras, and they just discovered that. So what they found is they first uncovered the issue, guess when? After issuing a public records request. So there's a great guy, I can't remember, I think it's the channel is called Business Reform. He's a business professor, former politician out of Indiana. In fact, when Indiana had a data breach, he's one of the ones that came in and helped clean that up. He actually has been collecting information for an amicus brief on one of the Flock cases, and he has encouraged everybody to, if you are in a city that has Flock cameras, to issue public records requests and send those public records requests to him so that he can include the data that's actually being collected across the country in the amicus brief. So that channel is called Business Reform. If you've not seen it, it's absolutely worth checking out. And so what he did here is, in this case, they first uncovered this after somebody else had issued a public records request. So they're collecting information for the public records request. And then what ends up happening? Well, they discover that all of these statewide searches have been on, and they were under the impression that, like Flock told them, only people within the city could search for cameras within the city, and that ended up not being true. So Canfield here says he still supports the license plate reader technology, just not the vendor. To my understanding, he believes that if it's something that is truly only the city's control, then he'd be okay with it. And that's kind of what Louis Rossman's basic stance is. If it's CCTV, only I control it, I don't care if there's a camera there. And I'm the same way. I don't care if the camera's there. But the question is what information, who else can access that? So this goes beyond one city's vendor dispute. If strict internal policies were not enough to prevent unauthorized sharing, it raises harder questions whether policy alone is an adequate safeguard when surveillance systems are operated by third parties. Wow. Kind of like all that stuff I've been saying the whole time, it's kind of crazy. And that's kind of the case, So our next article here is Google recovers deleted Nest videos in a high-profile abduction case. I may or may not be in Tucson. Fortunately, I have I had a lunch meeting before this happened in another city. Okay, so this is, of course, there's a high-profile abduction case that occurred in Tucson, and what happened here is this is a person, Nancy Guthrie, right? So the mother of a high-profile journalist from this area. So she had a Nest camera, and the abductors came in, and they ended up destroying the camera. And effectively what happens is Nest says, well, if you pay $10, you can have 30 days of events stored. $20 gets you 60 days of events stored with 10 days of full video. If you don't pay anything, Google only saves 3 hours worth of event history. After that, they are deleted. Well, it does turn out that Google can recover some of those. Now, this is a case where they chose to do it because, honestly, this is a case where if a company does have it, I'm going to support this to this extent. It's a company, they are realizing that they are talking about a high-profile abduction case. They're saying, we may have information. Let's go ahead and look for it. And I think I support Google in this stance. The take-home message here is that even though these cameras supposedly only have footage for a short period of time, that's not entirely true, and we have to be cautious of that when we have these cameras. Now, if she had a CCTV footage with that footage being recorded locally in a hidden place, that footage could be recovered by somebody, right? And so we could have actually had a lot more footage if it was a CCTV system that was locally recording stuff. Obviously not recording on an SD card on the device itself, that could be compromised. But a CCTV system could be recording that to 1 or 2 secret hidden servers, and that information could be useful. But in this case, Google looks down and says, hey, let's see what we can do. And they look down 9 days after the event. Remember, these are only supposed to be stored for 3 hours. 9 days later, Google is able to retrieve a series of these footages. Now, all these are FBI videos, YouTube videos of the actual footage that was taken after, 9 days after it was supposed to be deleted. So it's good that the information was able to be retrieved. I support that. But the fact of the matter is, don't buy into the privacy policy that says the footage is deleted after 3 hours if nobody looked at it. Now, it's in a big Google server somewhere. It can be grabbed for a whole lot longer. And so it raises that question, what if they get a subpoena to, give you footage? Well, you are under the impression that the footage is deleted. And then they come up and show up with footage that was deleted. Now, obviously, in this instance, because of the nature of this particular crime, because of the victim and the circumstances, I support this, Google looking into it on their own and then going back and saying, hey, we found something. I support that entirely. But if this were a criminal case and FBI's coming to Google looking for something, I think it would be a lot different situation because Google says, hey, we only store it for 3 hours. So it's funny that you can't get it after that time, but they can. And that raises the concern. So again, this is an interesting one, and just remember, it's not your cloud. Yeah, it's not your cloud. So that's kind of the situation we have to keep in mind as we look at this kind of stuff, right? So there's that. All right, 10,000 Claude desktop users are exposed by a zero-click vulnerability. So, of course, all of these people are like, AI. It sounds kind of like those pigeons, right, on Finding Nemo. Mine, AI. You know, so... Of course, everybody's trying to have this agentic AI, so you can install these various desktop extensions. And the desktop extensions are designed to do simple tasks for you. And so, of course, the problem is that in order to do a task for you, A, you have to give it a lot of permissions to do things, and B, you actually have to give it information that it needs to do the task, which is the perfect place for a criminal to get in there and intercept data, because it has a highly suggestible device with about the mental acuity of a toddler and unlimited amounts of data. So you're basically saying, you're handing your wallet, your credit card, everything else to your toddler, and you're sending a toddler out amongst a party, among a bunch of maybe, okay, we got to frame it this way. You're taking your credit card, your wallet, your cash, you're putting it into the toddler's hands and ushering him in the door at the hackathon conference down there in Las Vegas. Okay, that's what you're doing. Like, you're just like asking for problems. So if exploited by bad actor, even benign prompt, like take care of a calendar event, whatever, coupled with maliciously worded calendar event, is sufficient to trigger arbitrary local code execution that compromises the entire system. Hey Google, how many meetings are on my calendar? I don't know, sir, but I've just dumped $10,000 into a scammer's wallet. Oh, crap. So to unlock the productivity benefits of AI, you need to give these tools deep access to sensitive data. But if the data is compromised as a result, the AI and the model providers don't see themselves responsible for the security of the users using their products. This highlights the need for an AI shared responsibility model where it is clear who is responsible for the different layers of security tools. Yeah, that's the case. All right, so of course the vulnerability works because these particular desktop extensions, in order to get them to run, they can't be sandboxed. So you have non-sandboxed desktop extensions with full access to your information and given easy prompt suggestion. What moron thought this was a good idea? Derp! The same moron that would put their email in that form, I guess. I don't know. All right. Well, Windows is warning us that the original Secure Boot certificates will expire in June. So this is kind of like a Windows 10 type situation, right? Windows 10, you can still use it. It still functions. But as security vulnerabilities and bugs enter it, yeah, they're not getting patched. They will have some insecurities and things like that. All right. So that's kind of the case here. So if you have an older computer, if you have anything with like Windows 11 on it, you're probably safe. But these original certificates expired, and the expired certificates they'll continue to boot, but they could be prone to malicious things, and effectively something could pass a secure boot call without actually being valid. And that's really what the danger is here. So computers keep working. Now, in my case, using Linux, I disable secure boot on everything because secure boot's kind of like taking off your shoes at the airport for the TSA. It gives you a facade of security, but it doesn't actually save anything. So, there's always that. Who cares? Right. So, effectively, though, if you do have one of these, obviously, if you're running Windows 10 with the extended support or running Windows 11, the new certificates will get patched. Even Linux operating systems using LVFS for firmware updates will also be able to patch these as well. So most people using it are going to be secure, or you can just disable secure boot. Probably about the same circumstances. It has not been demonstrated to be amazingly secure. But anyway, We talked about this a little bit ago, just an FYI. It's here. ChatGPT is rolling out ads. So OpenAI on Monday announced it's beginning to test ads in the U.S. for users on its free and Go subscription tiers. So if you're free or you're the lowest $8 a month, well, you can get ads right alongside your ChatGPT. But don't worry, the ads do not influence answers on ChatGPT will give you. We'll just keep your conversation with ChatGPT private from advertisers. Our goal is for ads to support the broader access to more powerful ChatGPT features while maintaining the trust people place in ChatGPT for important and personal tasks. So you're telling me that if I ask ChatGPT where to go to eat for dinner tonight, it's not going to show me an ad? What's a restaurant? Are we going to see this profile? It's like, hey, the advertisement says you should eat here, and ChatGPT says you should eat here. How long before the ad and the answer are going to be the same? Should we, I'll give it maybe 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Is that generous? Is that good? I don't know. So Sam Altman, padded cell man, got extremely testy when the ads from Anthropic were calling them out on this, I guess, over the Super Bowl. I don't know. I didn't pay any attention to that crap this year. Actually, I haven't paid any attention to that crap for a long time. Call me crazy. I just don't want to watch a bunch of men running around in tights throwing around a dead pig. I don't know. I'm not into it. Nor am I really into a halftime show in a language that's not from my native tongue and not from my country. So I don't know. Nor do I care what TPUSA is doing either. So OpenAI CEO Sam Altman got extremely testy about the jabs, calling the ads dishonest and Anthropic an authoritarian company. So Sam Altman's accusing Anthropic of being an authoritarian company. This is the same guy that wants the entire world to scan their eyeball into his device. We got a black pot kettle situation going on over here. Oh dear. Yeah. Of course, it faced backlash when it tested app suggestions to look like unwanted apps. So it is funded by Microsoft after all. That's not an advertisement for OneDrive. It's just an app suggestion. Company says ads will also always be clearly labeled as sponsored and separate from the organic content. I'm just curious how long the organic content and the ads are going to report different things. Now you're going to get a totally confused person that is so now dependent on ChatGPT to make basic life decisions. They'll be like, ChatGPT, where should I go to eat? The ad says Taco Bell and ChatGPT says McDonald's. You're like, I can't make up a decision. Oh dear. Oh, look at this. Here's another reason to have that teen account like we talked about with Discord. Ads won't be shown to users under 18, nor will they place near sensitive, regulated topics like health, politics, or mental health. Wonderful. All right. Well, Uber Eats launches some AI assistant to help with grocery cart creation. That's right, man. You got to save you time. We got to save you the burdensome time of making that shopping list. I don't know, I mean, you guys saw me during the show. I pulled my little shopping list thing down here. It's like I got a little piece of paper. It's actually Velcroed to the back of the wall over here. It's got, I don't know. It has about a dozen notepads in it still. It'll last me a few months. And then I'll just Velcro another one up there, and it sits right there, and it has my shopping list. As I'm meandering out my day, I'm low on this. I can write, are we such a point that not only now do we have a world where our refrigerator will take pictures and build a shopping list, now the AI wants us to build a shopping list and then submit that list to Uber Eats. So some random weirdo goes to the store and picks up all of your food and brings it back to you in a zero trust society. I don't know. I think our world is on a suicide collision. I welcome Apophis, the great meteor of doom. Apophis 2028. That's what I'm voting for. All right. Cart Assistant on Wednesday designed to fill customers' grocery carts faster and easier. Beta version is now available. Customers can enter a list or upload an image of one. And Cart Assistant will automatically add the necessary items to their basket. So that's how it starts. And then over time, it starts learning your preferences and what you're going to do. And how long before ads start pushing products into your cart. Hey, we noticed you buy this. Would you like to try this? Would you like some cocoa from the Bay Mountain Beans? All right. Uber Eats notes cart assistant uses previous orders to prioritize familiar items like your usual milk, favorite oatmeal, or, dare we say it, the hot chocolate from the high mountains of wherever. All right. To make the experience more personalized. That's right. Cart assistant could help Uber Eats better compete with the other food delivery grocery apps and already integrating AI chatbots. Wonderful. So now we just have conversations with our robotic AI, and I just had a dark thought enter my mind, but it's just too dark for here. So the Steam machine and the Steam frame are going to be delayed, and we still do not know what the prices are. Mostly because of, hey, the RAM shortage. So Valve announced its Steam machine desktop PC and Steam frame VR headset in mid-November. It declined to announce pricing or availability. They actually wanted to announce them by now, but they said, in fact, they say down here, we announced these projects in November, planned on being able to share specific pricing and launch dates by now, but the memory and storage shortages you've heard about have had a rapidly increased since then. The limited availability, growing prices on these components mean we must revisit our exact shipping schedule and pricing. So, yet another way that AI is destroying everything by having all of these data centers. Well, New York is the latest state, though, trying to step in and stop all this nonsense. So New York lawmakers are proposing a 3-year pause on new data centers. There's some federal bills in the works as well. This one was New York State related. But they want to introduce a moratorium on at least 3 years on permits tied to construction and operation of new data centers. New York is at least the 6th state to consider pausing construction of data centers. Both Democrats and Republicans have expressed concerns about the impact of the data centers have on the surrounding communities. Okay, so look at this. Bernie Sanders and Ron DeSantis can team together on this one. Okay, when we have Bernie Sanders and Ron DeSantis teaming up and making effectively a joint statement indicating higher energy bills, just to do... okay, let me rephrase this. Bernie Sanders and Ron DeSantis both agree data centers are a bad thing. Ron DeSantis specifically quotes, higher energy bills just so some chatbot can corrupt some 13-year-old kid on the internet. Oh, I still like that comment from Ron DeSantis. Maybe Ron DeSantis 2028 with Apophis Meteor of Doom as vice president. I don't know. 230 environmental groups, including Food, Water Watch, Friends of the Earth, Greenpeace, have all signed a letter to Congress for it. Kruger describes her state as completely unprepared for massive data centers that are gunning for New York. So Kathy Hochul, with her, which her office said would both modernize the way energy users would connect to the grid while requiring them to pay their fair share. Okay, this might be the only time I'm ever going to agree with a Democrat in using the quote, pay their fair share. But let's go ahead and agree with Kathy Hochul on this one, because if a giant data center plops down and causes all of the energy prices to spike because they're hogging up all of the energy, I actually think that big company, which is owned by this giant board sitting on a fund of billions of dollars, call me crazy. I think that they should pay for the increase in electricity and allow all of the citizens to continue paying the exact same rates. In fact, here's a thought. If a data center moves into your neighborhood, your energy prices have to drop by 10% and hold that rate for 10 years. How's that? There's a thought. Well, Lyft is now opening its ride-hailing app to teenagers. So, we are in such a crazy society. I don't want to get into a car with a random stranger driving me somewhere. I certainly don't want my kids getting into a random car with a stranger driving them somewhere. So they've launched the teen accounts on Monday. They allow minors as young as 13 to hail a ride without an adult in 200 cities, including Atlanta, Boston, Chicago, and New York. So the parent or guardian creates the teen account. They basically go in there and they can create the account. They tie the teenager account into a payment system. So the parents are going to pay for the ride, of course. And then they are saying that drivers who are matched with the underage passengers must meet additional criteria and pass a yearly background check, with all those data brokers constantly monitoring everything they do. So there you go. But I don't know. I just think it's better if you probably just keep your teenagers out of random strangers' cars. I mean, we know that there's been a lot of attacks with Uber drivers and Lyft drivers anyway. I can just imagine what's going to go on with this one. Parents can enter their teens' contact info, wonderful, and a shared payment method to cover teen rides. Once confirmed, the teen will receive a text message with a unique sign-up link. And, of course, the teenager can bring a friend with them as well. So there you go. It's a two for one psycho deal. There you go. And I want to cover this one because it was absurdly high priced. Even the article says, "Wow, this is cheap." Like, no, it ain't. I don't know what you're smoking, but so Amazon, of course, has the Eero, which is like a Wi-Fi router. You know, it probably collects all of the information you're doing and sends it to Amazon because Amazon's a high trust company like that. But effectively, you have this Wi-Fi 6 router, and it's effectively an Amazon product. So they're selling this new device called the Signal, which if you have an outage on your ISP, the Signal will take over, giving you an LTE connection, which will keep you running online while your main internet is out. And then as soon as the main internet is back on, it will switch back over to your main carrier internet. So the device is actually pretty cool. The technology is sound and awesome. The problem is, despite the article saying, hey, this is really cheap, no, it's absurdly expensive. And I'm going to tell you why. So they say it's ideal for people with security systems to stay online or in areas prone to outages. And this is true. If you are relying on a good security system that needs the internet, this is a good product. I like the concept. What they say here is the subscription costs less than most comparable 4G LTE plans. At launch, users can choose between $99 annual Eero Plus subscription with 10 gigabytes backup data or $199 Eero Plus plan with 100 gigabytes of data. Okay, you know what? I saw that's annual. I originally saw that per month, which was insanely expensive. So we're talking less than $10 a month. Okay, I have to reevaluate my complaint here. Is this valid or not? So this is built on, it has a multi-carrier eSIM system. This is becoming popular in, there's a lot of these NVMe companies which are coming up, NVMO companies. There you go. No, not hard drive companies, cellular companies. NVMO companies popping up to serve the people like me who travel in their vehicles. Of course, they all have these, end user crap that I would never get. But what they're doing is they have these new multi-carrier SIMs where anywhere you're going, it probes all three main networks and then connects to which one has the best signal. So it's a really cool technology to have this multi-carrier eSIM. Okay, so $100 per annum. Okay, I saw that as $100 per month, which is extremely expensive. So we're less than $10 a month for backup internet, which gives you 10 gigabytes of backup. Now, I don't know if it's at 10 gigabytes of data per year or per month. If that's per year, that's still a really bad deal. If that's per month, that's actually reasonable. This is a little bit better of a deal. Now, let's go ahead and talk briefly because if you didn't know, I do this entire show in my channel. I live in a van. I'm a full-time van dweller. This place here is my mobile office. I have lived in here full-time for 5 years. What do I do for the internet? Well, I have an Airlink LX40 modem. It is a cellular modem that you can flash it to work with either AT&T, T-Mobile, or Verizon. I have mine flashed to Verizon because in all my time traveling the country before I went full-time van life, I found Verizon had the best overall strongest network. So I started with that, and then I found a NVMO, which would basically able to give me a SIM card to support that particular device. And that particular device, the one I have right now, costs me $119 per month, and I get 300 gigabytes of data. And it's very strong overall, really good connection. There's obviously places it works, places it doesn't. Now, I now have a backup Starlink, which, by the way, just doubled the data. So now the $50 a month Starlink plan actually comes with 100 gigabytes of data a month, which is actually pretty nice. So if I'm in a place where the cell signals don't work, but I have a clear view of the sky, I have a backup Starlink I can use. And all of these things ties into my in-van network. All of my stuff here is hardwired in. So I run from the modem into a pfSense router, which runs the signal into an 8-port network switch. And then that 8-port network switch feeds all of the different computers, which are all hardwired into my network, which works really, really well. And I have just a little bit of Wi-Fi for phones, tablets, and laptops and things. Although I do have a little Ethernet cable here on my desk as well. So if I'm working on something, I can plug directly into my network. And then I have a network switcher, which will switch the signal between the Starlink and the cellular, depending on which way I'm going. So this is actually not a bad plan. I thought it was insanely expensive, but no, it's not. Reading that a second time, seeing that that's per year, not per month, this actually is a pretty good thing. The only limitation of it right now is it has to be tied to these Amazon routers, and I'm not sure I want to do that. So there's that, and we have one more section here. We're going to talk about our Sillyville. All right, guys. Are you guys ready? Well, it turns out that these Waymo robo-taxis are constantly monitored by people from the Philippines. Yeah, just like Amazon couldn't actually get these, grab-and-go stores to work because there was a bunch of Indians watching all these cameras and putting together receipts at the very end. Yeah, it turns out Waymo's kind of doing the same thing. Your Waymo car is being watched by some Filipino drivers. Maybe that explains a lot. Maybe that explains why they keep on running stop signs on the sides of buses and running over poor little kitties and puppies in the street. So yeah, Senator Ed Markey says, I got Waymo to admit they are using people 8,000 miles away in the Philippines to help guide their self-driving cars. All right, I got to turn on my audio for this one.
Yes or no, does Waymo employ humans
clip,
located remotely to help its vehicles navigate difficult driving scenarios?
Senator, they provide guidance. They do not remotely drive the vehicles. As you stated.
All right, so the Filipino guys monitoring your Waymo, they provide guidance, but they don't drive the vehicles. So here's Waymo's. Let me turn that off. I don't know if there's audio on this or not. Here's Waymo's. There's actually a report here of Waymo's actually crossing school buses. There were, I think, a dozen of these cases. Oh, yeah, there you go. There's a Waymo right there. So this is the school bus. This is the Waymo. So basically the Waymo is seeing the stop sign on the school bus and treating it like a regular stop sign. It gets there, it stops, and then it goes again because nothing's in its way, which of course is a violation. Here's of course a nice gif of Filipino drivers. So, if next time you want to know what's going on with your Waymo vehicle, these are the people monitoring and supporting your vehicle driving. Okay. So that just gives you every bit of information you need to know about the Filipino people helping the Waymos drive. So, there you have it. It's hard to believe that this is a Google company. Well, you know that Florida man had to show up. Florida man arrested for driving his motorcycle so fast. Apparently he became that, fire dude from Avatar, right? So there you have it. So Florida teenager is driving 130 miles down a 65 mile an hour zone. He passed a deputy in a speed trap. The deputy looks up and says the motorcycle is driving so fast, he has no possible hope of catching him. So he's just like, yep, letting him go. But then what ends up happening is he gets a call on the radio not too long later saying, hey, there's a motorcycle on fire. There's no exits in between the two spots. And then he sees this dude walking down the street. Yeah, it was the same guy. He drove his motorcycle so fast for so long that his motorcycle caught on fire, only in Florida. So there you go, guys. Florida man, fire avatar. Go figure. Wonderful. And our last one here is Alphabet is now selling 100-year bonds to help fund the AI investment. So if you thought the 50-year mortgages were a steal, you got to get some 100-year bonds. I didn't hear back from my financial advisor onto the veracity of this. It sounds really silly from us from the front end here. But one of the things to keep in mind is that insurance companies particularly have to buy investments this big. So it might very well be the insurance companies buying a lot of these because they have to have investment strategies going out years in advance. However, there is a downside, and that is that when a company is being evaluated, they will look at for like its valuation for cost. They are going to look at debt you have, but they're also going to look at bonds because bonds effectively they have to pay out. So they're effectively like debt. And so to see Google issuing out these 100-year bonds, it's a funny headline, and it is a little ridiculous. I certainly would not recommend a family or a single person to get these to, will them down 6 generations of people who will end up being an idiocracy. You're like 6 generations down. Hey, back when I was a boy, my granddaddy bought me a 100-year Google bond. I give it to you now. He gives it to him, and then he's like, I like money. I gotta sit on my toilet and watch my TV. I like money. We're gonna be idiocracy before 100 years is up. I mean, if you thought the 50-year for the bank was a bad deal, the 100-year bonds, man, just seals your financial fate. All right. But yeah, the insurance companies do actually have to have they have to have a lot of long-term investments, like into the hundreds of years by law. And so they actually have. So they actually sold a lot of these. They were selling $20 billion in bonds, lining up Swiss franc bond sale, the people said. The dollar portion of bonds was upsized from $15 billion because of strong demand. So apparently a lot of people are investing in Google for the long run, or Alphabet at least, for the long run. So that's interesting. So the Century bond is not particularly common for tech companies. It is required, though, for life insurance companies and things like that. So it is kind of funny, but it's not overall absurd when you see the entire picture of everything. But it is still kind of silly. If you want to help support the channel, you can grab this hat or this amazing coffee cup from shop.switchedtolinux.com. We have a lot of different shirts and things like that over there, and shirts, mouse pads. I even have this mouse pad over there too. Mine's getting old. I need a new one. But you can grab all those over at shop.switchedtolinux.com.